In the scorching summer of 2020, 12 close college friends from Michigan State University decided to embark on what they believed would be their final adventure together before graduation separated their tight-knit group forever. The destination was Crystal Lake, a pristine 15-mile stretch of water nestled deep within the remote wilderness of northern Michigan, renowned for its crystal-clear depths and the dense pine forests that surrounded its shores like ancient guardians. With infectious enthusiasm and youthful optimism, they pooled their money together to rent a luxurious pontoon boat, capable of accommodating their entire group comfortably for what they planned as a week-long celebration of their friendship and academic achievements. During the bright Saturday morning of July 18th, they took countless selfies on the weathered wooden dock, loaded the spacious vessel with camping gear, coolers packed with ice and beer, fishing equipment, water sports gear, and enough provisions to last their planned 7-day adventure in complete comfort. The 12 friends, Michael Thompson, David Carter, James Wilson, Christopher Brown, Daniel Miller, Matthew Davis, Anthony Garcia, Joshua Rodriguez, Andrew Martinez, Ryan Anderson, Brandon Lee, and Nicholas Taylor, were all honor students with brilliant futures ahead of them, each carrying dreams and aspirations that motivated them to excel in their chosen fields of study. They solemnly promised their worried families that they would maintain regular contact via satellite phone and return safely to campus by the following Sunday evening without fail. However, fate had other plans entirely for these promising young men. None of the 12 friends ever returned home to their families. The pontoon boat vanished completely without leaving a single trace, with no floating debris on the lake's surface, no desperate distress calls received by authorities, no oil slicks or fuel stains, no emergency flares spotted by other boaters, and no signs of disturbance on the normally tranquil waters that seemed to have maintained absolute silence about their ultimate fate. Before continuing this story, tell us in the comments what country and city you're listening to this story from. For 4 agonizing years that felt like an eternity to the devastated families left behind, the case remained completely stagnant in police files, with no significant breakthroughs, promising leads, or credible sightings despite massive search efforts and extensive media coverage. The 12 families maintained their sons' memories alive through photographs, home videos, and personal belongings carefully preserved in their bedrooms, organizing emotionally charged monthly vigils at the lake, coordinating massive community search efforts involving hundreds of volunteers, and fighting tirelessly to keep the case active in public consciousness and media attention. They hired private investigators, consulted with psychics, organized fundraising campaigns, and even brought in specialized underwater search teams with advanced sonar equipment. But the lake seemed determined to keep its secrets buried in its mysterious depths. In August 2024, exactly 4 years after the tragic disappearance, a professional drone operator named Marcus Webb, a 32-year-old former military reconnaissance specialist turned environmental researcher, was conducting an authorized aerial survey mapping illegal dumping sites in restricted areas of Crystal Lake for the Michigan Department of Natural Resources when his high-resolution drone cameras captured footage that would fundamentally change everything. While flying his advanced DJI Matrice 600 equipped with thermal imaging and high-definition cameras over a heavily restricted section of the lake where public access had been prohibited for decades due to alleged environmental concerns, Marcus discovered something that defied all logical explanation and human comprehension. His drone had inadvertently revealed the existence of what could only be described as a massive underwater graveyard of watercraft, with dozens upon dozens of boats, pontoons, sailboats, and various other vessels scattered systematically across the lake bottom in a restricted zone that measured approximately 2 square miles. The boats appeared to be arranged in deliberate patterns rather than randomly scattered, suggesting an organized and methodical placement that indicated human intervention rather than natural sinking or abandonment. Some vessels were partially submerged with portions still visible above the waterline, while others were completely underwater, but clearly visible through the crystal-clear depths, all covered in thick layers of aquatic vegetation, algae, and lake weeds that had grown undisturbed for years, or possibly decades, creating an eerie underwater forest of abandoned dreams and lost lives. As news of the shocking discovery spread like wildfire throughout the region and quickly gained national media attention, the local community found itself dramatically divided between absolute disbelief and paralyzing fear that began to consume everyone's thoughts and conversations. How was it humanly possible that so many boats could lie hidden for decades in a lake that was supposedly well monitored and regularly patrolled by local authorities and the Coast Guard? Local law enforcement agencies, initially reluctant and highly skeptical about the possibility of conducting a major investigation in an area that had been officially restricted for environmental protection reasons, quickly found themselves under intense pressure from the desperate families of the missing. Students, human rights organizations, and national media outlets demanding immediate action and answers. Marcus Webb, the drone operator responsible for the earth-shattering discovery, immediately volunteered his services and expertise to join the official investigation efforts, working closely with state police divers, federal investigators, and forensic specialists to systematically map and document the enormous underwater cemetery that his aircraft had revealed from above. Under the constant surveillance of multiple drones equipped with the latest high-definition cameras, underwater ROV units, and professional diving teams using advanced sonar mapping technology, completely unprecedented and deeply disturbing clues began to emerge that radically transformed investigators' understanding of what had occurred. The submerged boats were arranged in unnaturally precise formations, as if following a deliberate and almost ritualistic pattern that suggested the involvement of an extraordinarily organized and calculating criminal mind, with access to heavy equipment and intimate knowledge of the lake's geography. Multiple vessels contained perfectly preserved personal belongings including waterproof backpacks, sealed mobile phones in protective cases, digital cameras in underwater housings, fishing equipment, life jackets, and clothing items, creating scenes frozen in time beneath thick layers of lake sediment and aquatic plant growth that had accumulated over many years. The initial physical evidence irrefutably revealed that these victims had not perished in conventional boating accidents, but had been systematically murdered with cold calculation and premeditation to conceal an extremely valuable secret that justified eliminating any potential witnesses who might threaten the operation. A completely waterproof military-grade notebook discovered inside one of the more recently submerged vessels, containing precise GPS coordinates, high-quality compromising photographs, encrypted coded messages, and detailed tracking evidence consolidated the growing suspicions of federal investigators who had taken over the case. The official investigation gained dramatic new momentum when FBI agents specializing in organized crime took complete control of the case, bringing unlimited resources and advanced scientific analysis to bear on what was clearly a sophisticated criminal network that extended far beyond simple insurance fraud as initially theorized. The primary focus of the federal investigation immediately centered on Harrison Blackwood, a highly respected 55-year-old businessman deeply connected to the marine insurance and boat recovery industry, who had been using his seemingly legitimate boat salvage and recovery company as the perfect front for illegal activities of unimaginable scope and duration. Blackwood, widely known throughout the community for his natural charisma, public generosity, substantial donations to local charities, and considerable economic influence and political connections, had been operating for over 2 decades, an incredibly complex criminal enterprise that combined multi-million-dollar marine insurance fraud with systematic forced disappearances and calculated murders of potential witnesses. Suspicions surrounding Blackwood began to gain substantial traction when anonymous testimonials and previously hidden physical evidence started emerging from unexpected sources who had remained silent for years due to fear of lethal retaliation from the organization. 25 years in the marine insurance business had provided him with nearly complete impunity and an extensive network of strategic contacts that included corrupt government officials, unscrupulous local and federal police officers, compromised judges, and collaborating businessmen who actively participated in the cover-up operations. The disappearance of the 12 college friends on their lake expedition appeared to be merely the visible tip of a gigantic criminal iceberg, a small but significant indicator of a much larger organizational monster that had been systematically devouring innocent lives for more than 2 decades without detection by competent authorities, investigative media, or watchdog organizations. The criminal network had operated with military precision, using sophisticated technology including GPS tracking devices, underwater disposal equipment, and advanced communication systems to coordinate their operations while maintaining complete operational security and avoiding law enforcement detection. One of the missing friends, Nicholas Taylor, a brilliant 22-year-old journalism student with natural investigative instincts and exceptional attention to detail, had heroically managed to send an encrypted emergency message through a secure messaging application before disappearing forever, precisely describing suspicious faces, vehicle license plates, specific threatening actions, and providing vital GPS coordinates that would become fundamental to the posthumous investigation that would follow years later. His devastated family, led by his father who was a veteran investigative journalist with decades of experience exposing corruption, immediately became the tireless driving force behind the public denouncement campaign, courageously facing constant death threats, systematic intimidation tactics, deliberate bureaucratic obstacles, and direct sabotage attempts, but never abandoning their obsessive quest for justice for their son and all his university companions. The extraordinarily organized and efficient criminal network functioned with scientific methodology and military precision, systematically laundering money derived from massive marine insurance frauds, while silently eliminating any real or perceived threats to their multi-million-dollar annual operation that had been generating enormous profits for decades. The case dramatically mobilized the entire regional community, national and international press, specializing in organized crime investigations, human rights organizations, and federal authorities from multiple countries, achieving the implementation of revolutionary new legislation that significantly strengthened comprehensive witness protection programs, victim family support systems, and coordinated efforts to combat systematic corruption in the marine insurance industry. Michael Thompson, the group's natural charismatic leader and outstanding civil engineering student with exceptional analytical skills, had strategically left a detailed encrypted message in his smartphone's internal memory that federal investigators managed to completely decipher weeks later using cutting-edge technology, revealing that the group had accidentally discovered something extremely compromising about Blackwood's criminal activities and genuinely feared for their lives during their final hours. David Carter, a future attorney with exceptional investigative instincts and solid legal knowledge, had meticulously documented for months the flagrant inconsistencies and suspicious patterns in the boat recovery company's operations, creating an exhaustive digital archive of evidence that would become the fundamental cornerstone of the federal prosecution case. James Wilson had been secretly recording conversations using his smartwatch, while Christopher Brown had maintained detailed financial records that helped trace money laundered through the criminal organization across multiple states and offshore accounts. Federal prosecutor Sarah Mitchell, a veteran organized crime specialist with 15 years of experience in complex international cases, personally took charge of the case with unwavering determination, fully understanding that she faced an extraordinarily powerful enemy with criminal tentacles deeply infiltrated into various governmental, judicial, law enforcement, and private institutions at local, state, and potentially federal levels. The meticulously planned judicial strategy specifically focused on deciphering the hidden connections within the criminal network and systematically breaking down the impenetrable wall of silence, intimidation, and corruption that had effectively protected Blackwood and his criminal organization during more than 2 decades of completely impune operation. An immediate massive undercover operation unprecedented in scope was deployed, utilizing highly trained federal agents, advanced satellite surveillance technology, state-of-the-art forensic analysis, authorized digital communications interception, and unlimited financial resources to gather completely irrefutable evidence against the entire organizational structure from top to bottom. The comprehensive federal investigation gradually revealed that several of the boats found in the underwater cemetery served as transportation vehicles for diverse illegal merchandise, ranging from synthetic drugs and cocaine to automatic weapons and cash money, and that the systematic and calculated murder of potential witnesses was a routine and fundamental component of the criminal modus operandi designed to ensure absolute community silence. Federal agents assigned to the operation faced constant risks and real dangers throughout the entire investigation. Direct armed attacks, explosive devices planted in their vehicles, professional sabotage of their communication equipment, and specific detailed threats against their families and children marked every single day of the dangerous undercover investigation. However, the insatiable thirst for justice and unwavering moral commitment weighed far more than paralyzing fear, and the federal operation continued advancing with absolute and unshakable determination that inspired the entire investigative community and gave hope to the victim families. A key and devastating testimony unexpectedly emerged when a high-ranking repentant former member of the criminal organization, terrorized by the lethal consequences of remaining silent and fearing for his own family's safety, decided to risk everything and cooperate completely with federal authorities, providing insider information that proved crucial to dismantling the entire network. Daniel Miller had hidden a waterproof GPS tracker in his backpack that continued transmitting coordinates for days after their disappearance, while Matthew Davis had programmed his devices to automatically back up all data to international servers, preserving crucial evidence even after physical destruction. The public judicial hearings attracted unprecedented international media attention, becoming one of the most followed, analyzed, and documented criminal cases in modern legal history, both nationally and internationally. Blackwood's legal defense team, strategically composed of a complete team of extremely high-profile defense attorneys with national reputations, systematically and aggressively attempted to discredit all presented evidence, arguing elaborate conspiracy theories, alleging supposed fabrication of evidence by law enforcement, and insisting on an alleged lack of conclusive evidence directly connecting their client to the multiple murders and organized criminal operation. However, the absolutely overwhelming combination of detailed testimonies from witnesses protected under federal programs, irrefutable technological forensic data, banking financial documents recovered from secret offshore accounts, high-quality audio recordings obtained through court-authorized electronic surveillance, compromising photographs, and tangible physical evidence left absolutely no room for reasonable doubt regarding the complete and indisputable guilt of Blackwood and his entire organized criminal network. Those directly and indirectly involved in the criminal organization received historically severe and exemplary sentences, with prison terms exceeding 5 decades of federal imprisonment without possibility of parole for the principal leaders of the organization, and literally hundreds of accumulated years of imprisonment for the complete criminal network, including collaborators, accomplices, and minor participants. The regional community breathed deeply relieved upon witnessing that justice had finally prevailed after decades of impunity, although the deep emotional wound from the tragic loss of 12 promising young men with brilliant futures remained completely open and would continue healing slowly for future generations. The families of the 12 missing friends worked together closely with national and international human rights organizations, officially establishing the Nicholas Taylor and Companions Foundation, a comprehensive nonprofit organization specifically dedicated to effective prevention of similar tragedies, integral and continuous support for families facing forced disappearance of loved ones, and coordinated struggle against systematic corruption in public and private institutions at all levels. Anthony Garcia had been developing a mobile application for reporting suspicious activities in recreational areas, while Joshua Rodriguez had established an automated photographic monitoring system using trail cameras that provided crucial evidence about the criminal organization's roots and methods. The exhaustive forensic investigation of the massive boat cemetery revealed a criminal operation of technical sophistication, geographical scope, and psychological cruelty that profoundly impacted even veteran investigators completely accustomed to complex, organized crime cases and multiple homicides spanning international boundaries. Each individual sunken vessel told a specific and documented story of human lives brutally cut short and families completely destroyed, with physical and digital evidence dating back more than 30 years of systematic, organized, and chilling criminal activity that had operated completely undetected by law enforcement agencies. Specialized underwater recovery divers working under extremely dangerous conditions and using military-grade equipment managed to meticulously recover more than 800 diverse personal objects, ranging from smartphones and digital cameras to family jewelry, identification documents, wallets, and unique personal effects, each one tangibly representing an innocent victim whose disappearance had been deliberately and incorrectly catalogued by corrupt authorities as boating accidents, suicides, or simple voluntary disappearances. Scientific DNA analysis performed by specialized federal laboratories definitively confirmed that at least 94 innocent people had tragically lost their lives at the direct hands of Blackwood's criminal organization, including foreign tourists from multiple nationalities, experienced local fishermen, private investigators hired by families, independent journalists, environmental researchers, and anyone who had represented a real or potential threat to the continuity of the multi-million-dollar criminal operation. The network had operated for decades with chilling efficiency and technical precision, utilizing military-grade GPS tracking technology to systematically follow their selected victims, commercial drones for reconnaissance and surveillance, professional-level encrypted communication equipment to coordinate murders without leaving conventional digital traces, and specially modified vehicles for transportation and disposal of bodies in remote locations. Andrew Martinez had ingeniously hidden a microscopic USB memory device in a specially constructed secret compartment of his high-quality waterproof backpack, containing high-resolution photographic evidence of clandestine nighttime meetings, massive cash transfers, and compromising documents that were absolutely crucial for identifying and locating all the financial, political, and logistical collaborators of the criminal organization. Ryan Anderson had maintained encrypted correspondence with an investigative journalist specializing in financial crimes, while Brandon Lee had been secretly recording conversations for months using hidden microphones, creating an audio archive that documented the criminal organization's operations and provided irrefutable evidence of their systematic approach to eliminating witnesses and covering up their illegal activities through corruption and intimidation. The transformative impact of the Blackwood case completely transcended national and regional boundaries, generating significant and permanent changes in international legislation regarding organized crimes, marine insurance fraud, witness protection programs, and judicial cooperation between countries to effectively combat transnational crime that operates across national borders with impunity. International human rights organizations, including the United Nations, Amnesty International, and Human Rights Watch, strategically utilized the case as a paradigmatic example and study model, demonstrating the critical need to substantially strengthen international mechanisms for protecting witnesses, victim families, and coordinated international cooperation in the effective fight against organized crime that operates across national boundaries through corruption and intimidation. Congress unanimously approved the revolutionary Nicholas Taylor Act, comprehensive legislation that established significantly stricter protocols for mandatory investigation of disappearances in bodies of water, substantial additional financial resources for victim families, specialized psychological support programs, and much more severe penalties for insurance fraud crimes that result in death or forced disappearance of witnesses or potential threats. The foundation, officially established by the families, rapidly expanded internationally, providing specialized technical assistance, free legal support, and professional emotional accompaniment to families in similar situations in more than 22 countries across America, Europe, Asia, and Australia. The Foundation's work led to the implementation of new international protocols for investigating marine insurance fraud, improved cooperation between law enforcement agencies across borders, and the development of advanced technology for tracking and preventing similar criminal operations. Christopher Brown's financial analysis software was adopted by multiple insurance companies internationally to detect fraudulent patterns, while Daniel Miller's emergency communication protocols were implemented by universities nationwide for student travel safety. Matthew Davis's automated backup systems became standard security measures for investigative journalists and researchers working in dangerous situations. Anthony Garcia's mobile application for reporting suspicious activities was downloaded by millions of users and directly contributed to solving multiple criminal cases. The case also led to the establishment of specialized training programs for law enforcement agencies, teaching them to recognize and investigate complex organized crime networks that use legitimate businesses as fronts for illegal operations, ensuring that future criminal organizations would face more sophisticated and coordinated opposition from authorities equipped with better tools and knowledge gained from the Blackwood investigation. Today, more than a decade after the tragedy that shocked an entire generation and transformed how law enforcement agencies approach organized crime investigations, the names of the 12 college friends continue to serve as an international symbol of courage, relentless pursuit of truth, and resistance against systematic corruption in communities worldwide that face similar challenges and threats from organized crime. Their university photographs permanently adorn the international memorial established at Crystal Lake, daily reminding thousands of annual visitors that the price of true justice is often tragically paid by the most innocent, and that their inadvertent sacrifice must never be forgotten by future generations who benefit from the legal reforms and security improvements implemented in their memory. The comprehensive foundation established in their collective memory has provided integral support to more than 1,500 families affected by similar crimes across multiple continents, irrefutably demonstrating that their tragic deaths were not completely in vain, and that their legacy continues saving lives and providing justice for victims of organized crime worldwide. The lake that once guarded terrible secrets for decades now serves as a permanent international symbol of transparency, justice, and historical memory, where truth finally emerged victorious from the dark depths to definitively illuminate the darkness of organized crime and eternally honor the memory of 12 promising young men whose inadvertent sacrifice changed the world for the better and inspired legal reforms that protect future generations from similar tragedies. Michael Thompson's engineering designs for improved boat safety systems were implemented internationally, while David Carter's legal research contributed to stronger witness protection laws. James Wilson's investigative techniques became standard curriculum in journalism schools, and Christopher Brown's financial analysis methods revolutionized fraud detection in the insurance industry. The Nicholas Taylor and Companions Foundation continues to expand globally, working with international law enforcement agencies, universities, and human rights organizations to prevent similar tragedies and support families seeking justice for their missing loved ones. Harrison Blackwood died in federal prison 3 years into his life sentence, but his criminal network was completely dismantled, with recovered assets worth over $200 million distributed among victim families and crime prevention organizations. The case established new international protocols for investigating marine insurance fraud and led to the creation of a global database for tracking suspicious patterns in boat disappearances and insurance claims, ensuring that no similar criminal organization could operate with the impunity that Blackwood's network enjoyed for decades, through corruption and systematic intimidation of witnesses and law enforcement officials.